Hi, this is Tapcat. Welcome to my latest Q&A, which will have at least a modest Halloween theme. We're going to go ahead and dive right into the questions. So I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this one. Wilcou, Wilco, I don't know. Ask, will I have a costume this year? And what's my favorite scary movie? No costume. The last year I tried to do that. I won't go into the whole story because it's really long, but basically I spent a ton of time and ended up with 2 different costumes. The first one I realized I just wouldn't be happy with at all, so I bought another one that I wasn't super happy with, and then got sick the day I was supposed to wear it. So after spending a ton of time and money, I got no use or fun out of any of it. And I'm going to say that has kind of left a really sour taste in my mouth. Someday I'll buy a costume again, though. As far as my favorite scary movie, that's really hard. I always have a hard time picking favorites, but there's a lot of scary movies that I love. So a lot of times my favorites, or the ones at least probably that I enjoy watching the most, are a little bit more story and or character driven. So for example, The Others is one I like a lot. And I never thought it was particularly scary, but I always really enjoyed The Ring that way too. I thought Naomi Watts and that kind of mystery angle that most of the movie had was awesome. I just didn't think it was nearly as scary as most people seem to. In terms of horror movies that really do generate more tension for me, I would say that the first 2 Insidious movies I liked a lot that way, and also the original Saw. I thought that was a really good, suspenseful, kind of psychological terror movie. So those would be my picks. Lincoln Gillespie asks if I have ever played spooky games like Resident Evil or anything along those lines. I did try Resident Evil 4, and I lasted a matter of minutes because I could not deal with the controls. It wasn't that I was too scared. I really, it was very wonky to me, and I bailed. The other one that I played is Outlast. And I lasted considerably longer, but I didn't come anywhere near finishing. It's kind of a little more intense, I think, than what I'm looking for out of a game. And it gets, I don't like, I panic almost like I would if I was in real life and, one of those things was charging at me. And so in the end, I watched, I don't even remember who it was, but I remember watching a Let's Play of Outlast so that I could, see how it played out. BLV Pro Gamers asks, why do you not like psionics in XCOM 2? I've talked about that a number of times. You probably should watch the very last video in the playlist for Season 4 of XCOM 2, because I talk about that at some length. So the very short version is that at least on Legend, by the time you have built the facilities that you absolutely need to, if you want to make sure you don't lose the game, and you can research the psionics and build the lab and then train up a couple of rookies, it doesn't matter anymore. You're lucky if they're ready to go for the final mission. And so it's not that I think psionics are bad, but you can't use them basically. The way the game is structured, I feel like you're just way better off putting your time and resources into things that you actually need to do and not something that's like this fun sidebar that's totally unnecessary. You can easily win the game without psionics. Timo Pukert, I'm sorry, I'm sure that's not correct, but he asked, what are my opinions on Long War 2? And if I had to rank the classes in XCOM 2 or the Chosen from best to worst, how would I rank them? So as far as Long War 2, I've talked about that a number of times, and let's just say it's not for me. I'm not interested in a campaign that long, and they add a lot of stuff to the strategy layer and things that it's more, but for me, it's not better. It's just stuff. So I know a lot of people really love it. Not really my thing. So as far as the classes, I actually didn't read this closely enough. So originally I was just thinking of the 4 original classes. Amongst them, I would say the Ranger, and then it's really, really tight between the Grenadier and Sharpshooter, but I would probably go in that order, and then the Specialist last. The reality, though, is that all of them benefit so much from having the others along, particularly the top 3. I could do without a Specialist entirely if it weren't for hacking. I would probably just try to do that. But Yeah, now if you add in the other classes, who I would say Reaper, Templar, Skirmisher amongst just the heroes. They've improved the Spark a lot, and I definitely like bringing him on missions, if only because he doesn't get fatigue, and he is useful. But probably the Specialist is the only thing I would rank him above. And I don't know. I think the Reaper is the most game breaking thing. I don't like to play in a style that takes full advantage of it. So I tend to underutilize it. But if you are wanting to play stealth and you want to abuse that capability, I think the Reaper is easily the best thing in the game. Eddie Owen asks, why did I first do YouTube and also do spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down my spine? I'm going to refer you to, I believe it was my very first Q&A. So just look in the playlist. If you watch that, I talked about why I got into YouTube. As far as skeletons go, I would say that at least in movies, I don't really find them very scary. They're not usually portrayed in a scary way a lot of times. Actually, I think the original Pirates of the Caribbean is the only movie where when they kind of reveal those guys as skeletons, it is kind of creepy, as much as the movie mostly had a comedic tone. But in real life, if I saw a skeleton coming towards me, like walking my way, I would probably be very afraid. Nathaniel Felton asks, what's my favorite song? Much like the horror movies, I'm going to say, I don't have one favorite song, really, but there are definitely songs that I love, just a wide variety of them. So I think what I'll say is that anytime anybody asks me this question, I will name a different song that I love a lot. And so the one I'm going to name today is pretty obscure, I think. I don't know if anyone will actually know it, but it's Sit and Listen by Wax Taylor. And you can look that up on YouTube if you want to hear it. It is the most just strange song I think I've ever heard, but it always makes me smile. I think it's pretty funny and it's very different. It's very catchy. So anyway, check it out if you're interested. Sit and Listen by Wax Taylor. So Alien Moth Probe asks, I see a lot of your War of the Chosen Squad are named after movie characters. Have you ever thought about doing videos about your favorite movies or movie characters? I absolutely have. I don't think it's a good fit. I think within the context of these Q&As, it's awesome to talk a little bit about music and movies and, things like that. But if I just started posting movie videos to my gaming channel, I don't think that helps you grow. I think it kind of confuses people. And I would rather have the channel be more focused. Hars Bennett asks if I've ever considered doing XCOM 2 with more mods. And Long War 2 is the example he used. So Season 4 is as close to that as I'm likely to ever come. And you can check that out if you haven't watched it already. I don't want to play Long War 2. I played a few missions. I didn't like it. And I don't intend to ever go back to it. And any similar mod that radically changes the game and makes it longer, I would have, I think, a similar feeling about. But I did play a fairly heavily modded game last season. P. Clouds asks how I feel about playing Invisible Ink. It's like XCOM, but with focus on stealth. And I will say that actually could happen. I did play very briefly. I tried Invisible Ink and I didn't really get on with it right out of the gate. And then I just quit. And this was off screen, of course. So I may give it another chance because I don't necessarily feel like I really gave it its due. I played the tutorial or something and I wasn't feeling it and I just bailed really quickly. And so I think I'll try it again. I actually really like the idea. You mentioned also that it has relatively few missions, fewer than 10 missions for a campaign, and each mission is relatively short. I actually would like to have some series like that in the future. I'm really ready for a break from 60, 70 missions, and these missions that go an hour, 2 hours, even more. I'm looking to get away from that, so that would be nice. It might happen. Blade Dragoon Zeta says 2 possible questions in the spirit of spooky time. Provided you've met the hunter at this point, which chosen do you dread meeting the most on missions? That's actually an interesting question because I think probably the most dangerous one for me on a consistent basis was the assassin as far as doing damage, because she just comes at you. And if you don't have battle scanners, then it's almost impossible to avoid taking at least a bad first hit. But I did find after the first hit, she didn't usually do damage to me. The hunter is often not very dangerous, but I have seen, like, if you get in a spot where you've activated him, so he's out of that mode where he's using that targeting thing. If you activate him and you have a pod or two that you're dealing with at the same time, the way he can use his grappling hook, like if you're on a map with buildings around you, potentially he actually can be the most dangerous because he'll grapple, go to elevated ground, and he can even move and flank one of your guys and then shoot him with his sniper rifle. And then the next turn do the same thing, and the next turn do the same thing. And he's so mobile that way, because he can grapple every turn too, that he can really wreck you if you can't focus on him, if you can't just bring everything to bear on taking him down. So the Warlock now, I would say, is the least dangerous in terms of causing damage, but he's actually my answer. He's the one that I dread meeting. And the reason I say that is the way he constantly sends a wave of those stupid phantom zombies at you. It made the missions with him on it so difficult. It's not that I took damage, but it just dragged them out. They would go on because I had to deal with them. And I would usually be engaged with another pod by then. And it would take like a full turn of firing at them to take them out. So I don't think most people would say this because I don't think he's the most dangerous, but the Warlock is the one that I dreaded meeting. What creature that I've encountered in a game would I least like to encounter in a dark alley? And that's from the same person. There are many, like anything from Outlast would be pretty darn scary. But I would say that the bloodletting beast from Bloodborne, he's a boss from one of the Chalice dungeons, and he is really scary. There's a lot of stuff from Bloodborne that you would not want to meet anywhere, actually. Blue asks, can you play something besides XCOM? I can only rewatch your old vids so many times. Blue, I'm gonna make you a promise. The next thing I do after this, I will not do an XCOM series. I am ready for an XCOM break. I'm not done recording this yet, and I may do some guides, but I'm definitely gonna play some games that are not XCOM. Patriot Act asks, what's next after War of the Chosen? So that's kind of in the same vein, right? And the answer is I don't know. I don't have like a specific plan. I need to finish recording War of the Chosen. I still have a number of missions to go. And then what I would like to do is record some guides. Now, the problem with that is I have to have the drive, the enthusiasm, and I am getting a little XCOM'd out. So I don't know how many, if any, guides I'm going to make here in the short term. But what I would like to do is make some short series or even one-offs where I say like, hey, let's try Super Hot. Let's try Darkest Dungeon. Even some older games, like I've been looking at Shadowrun. Some of the Shadowrun games, they have turn-based combat, and I would really like to at least try it. Fallout New Vegas. Now that's not really tactical. It's more of a shooter, but even if I do it off camera, I'd really like to at least try that game. So there's a lot of games I'm interested in, but the thing is I never know what I'm going to bring to the channel until I play them. So he actually asked a bunch of questions. I'm going to skip past some of them. Do I believe in extraterrestrial life? No, but I don't disbelieve it either. And in other words, like a lot of things that I don't know for a fact, I don't assume it's not true, and I don't assume it is true. So I certainly think that in a universe as big as ours appears to be, it's very plausible that there is something else out there that's alive. Has any of it ever come to this planet? Will any of it ever come to this planet? And if they did, what would they be like? These are questions I do not pretend to know the answer to. Favorite place to travel to? There's a lot of places I've gone that I really loved, but I think the one I enjoy the most is Orlando, Florida. And it's funny because I live in Southern California, where we have one of the greatest collection of theme parks in the world. And I travel thousands of miles to go to the place that has an even better collection. But I really do enjoy going there. My wife and I just love those parks. Enjoy walking through them, and not just the rides, like the experience of being there. It's very cool. And so I will say that. And blondes or brunettes, they're all good in my book. You can add all kind of it's really funny. I'm attracted to most shapes, sizes, hair color, race, whatever. I see a lot of people that I think are attractive. So, okay. No Land Beyond asks, what game have I played a lot and enjoyed, but never recorded for a YouTube video? Well, Bloodborne would probably top that list. Oh man, I love that game so much. And I played it 4 complete times at a time when I was not doing videos for the channel. And now I don't think I can play it again. Every now and then I'll actually load Bloodborne and play part of a level or something like that. I've even done the odd boss fight. And the problem is, I just don't think I have it in me to play the full game again or do enough content. I don't know what I would do as a video for Bloodborne that people would be interested in watching. Because I don't think people are really interested in just watching another playthrough. And I also wouldn't be that good anymore. At the time, I actually got pretty decent at that game. I'm not good at action games, but I played it enough that through repetition and just working at it, I got pretty decent. I could solo almost any boss in the game. At any rate, Bloodborne. Der Bernardin asks, what do I think about a fun playthrough of XCOM 2? Meaning just going achievement hunting, doing it in a low difficulty setting, do a mission in June with rookies or win the campaign with beginner's weapons. So I have actually thought about that. And I will tell you that if it was less time consuming to set up, I would probably do it. The problem is, to just get to the point where you can play that mission in June, you have to play a bunch of missions, right? And to get to the end of the campaign so that you can beat the final mission without upgraded weapons, oh my God, now I have to play a whole campaign. Even a rookie, that's going to take a while. So I probably won't do it. I also have, my experience up to now is that people in general don't want to watch XCOM games if you're not playing on the highest difficulty setting. To this day, my first campaign where I was playing on Commander, because I was still learning, it has way less views than the second and third season do, because it's Commander. And people want to see Legend. So if I was playing Rookie or whatever, I don't think there would be a lot of interest. Heath Shields asks if XCOM 2 is one of my favorite games because it's in his top 5. Also, do I think there will be an XCOM 3? And if so, what might the concept be? So Heath, yeah, I am not one who normally thinks this is my favorite game, this is my second favorite game, and kind of keep a list like that with a running tally. But I think it's safe to say that XCOM 2 would probably be in my 5 favorite games of all time. I think one time I was asked not long ago what my favorite 3 games were in a prior Q&A, and I may have listed XCOM 2 in there. And, it's definitely very high on my list. As far as an XCOM 3 goes, I really don't know. I mean, I thought after Enemy Unknown, they had laid all these hints that there was a bigger threat chasing the Elders, and I thought we would be introduced to them. And instead what they did is say, oh, surprise, you actually lost the war. And so it was just a continuation with an alternate path for the story we'd already played out. And I didn't expect that. Now, for this game, they've definitely teased Terror from the Deep, that underwater shot at the end of the final cutscene would suggest Terror from the Deep. Will they actually do that? Will they finally go to this bigger threat? I really don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I don't even think I care. I think for me, it would be more like, what's the game going to be like? And if that's good, I'm totally down for either or something else that they may dream up. Guillaume Oz, if I'm saying that right, asked if I may go back to Civ someday. And that was where he first discovered my channel. The last one was 11 months ago. So yes, I may go back to Civilization someday. The problem was when Civilization 6 came out, I didn't like it. And so I stopped playing. And I used to play a ton of Civilization 5. That's actually, even though I started this channel because of XCOM, Enemy Unknown, I didn't really get any subscribers or viewers from that initially. I was just making videos that nobody watched. And it was my first Civilization 5 video series that started finally getting me subscribers and viewers. So in a lot of ways, you know, the early days, this channel is kind of the house that Civilization 5 built. But after playing, I don't know, like 800 or 1,000 hours, whatever it was, of Civilization 5, I just was done. And I don't know if I'll ever play Civ 5 again. So, you know, will it be Civ 7? Will it be going back to one of the older games like Civilization 4 and trying that? Or revisiting 5? I honestly don't know. I have no plans to play it, but I certainly have not taken any kind of blood oath against it. And so you could see it. Super Giga 64 asks if there's any moments in XCOM 2 that have scared me. Also, have I or anyone I've known experienced anything paranormal? Well, in XCOM 2, I think I get scared fairly commonly whenever I take a step forward and I reveal, you know, multiple pods. That's really frightening. Also, if a ruler shows up while you're already fighting even one pod, that's terrible. And so that's pretty scary to me. I always feel like I'm going to lose at least one soldier. You know, I don't enjoy that. I will say, well, you asked specifically about XCOM 2, but I think I probably had more scary moments in Enemy Unknown, particularly terror missions with the chrysalids in that game. They were well named, the terror missions. Anyway, and then as far as anything paranormal, I was really trying to think, and you know, I've never experienced anything like that. And if anyone I've ever known has, then they haven't said anything to me about it. So yeah, sorry. It's a boring answer, but it's true. David Rose asks how far ahead I am of what I've posted for XCOM or The Chosen. And that has varied a lot. I didn't upload my first installment until I had recorded 10 parts, if I remember correctly, because I wasn't sure how, you know, work was going to go. But anyway, that initially dipped. I was having a hard time keeping ahead of the schedule or keeping up with it even. And then in more recent weeks, I've really been pushing hard. And so I've actually got a lead of about 15 installments ahead. Zom trying to ask if I think I'll do a beta strike run on XCOM 2 or an all specialist run. And I would say I don't think so. The beta strike thing is kind of interesting, but it's going to make the missions way longer. And that's just not what I'm looking for. Caden Dotson asks if I had to fight one of the Chosen in real life, but had the powers of a class in XCOM, which Chosen would I fight and which class would I be? So, wow, that's so hard. I guess what I would say is that if I didn't have a squad to help me, then I would want to be the Templar because I could use parry after each rend and stop from getting beat up. And then I would probably choose the Hunter. So yeah, but that's a hard one. And I think in a one-on-one fight, any soldier would have a very difficult time. Omniverse 828 asks if I can make a good jack-o'-lantern and what would he get if he trick-or-treats at my place. If I took enough time, I tend to be pretty methodical. So I would say, sure, I could probably make a good jack-o'-lantern, but I haven't done it since I was a kid. So it wouldn't win any contests. Let's put it that way. And then you'll get candy, you big silly. Molly asks, why don't I instruct my men to exercise caution when eating Advent burgers? And you know, Molly, I did, but they couldn't understand what I was saying because my mouth was full at the time. Cryakeen asks why I don't have my soldiers speaking in different languages. because he or she loves the international feel it gives to their roster. So the answer is pretty simple because I like to understand what they're saying. I'm a selfish bastard and I want to know what is coming out of their mouths. And English is the only language I speak because I'm an American. So actually, my ideal would be if I could configure it so that like a Russian soldier would speak English with a Russian accent and a German soldier would speak English with a German accent and so forth. I think that would be a lot of fun, but I'm not thinking it's going to happen anytime soon. Echo Stevens asks if I've heard of Elite Dangerous and thought about playing it. Yeah, of course I've heard of Elite Dangerous. And those kind of games are always intriguing to me and I think about them. But what I know firsthand is I am not good with open world games. I need goals. I need tasks. I need direction. And when you just open up a huge map, or in this case, universe, and say, hey, go do what you want, I don't know what to do. So I just tend to get bored really quickly. And I guess maybe if I knew enough that I would have, like if I gave myself goals, but I don't get on well with games like that involve a lot of travel and exploration. I just get bored with it. So no, you probably won't ever see me playing Elite Dangerous. Okay, what is this? CEG Royals Fan 87 as Jennifer Lawrence or Scarlett Johansson? You know, I'm going to be honest. I've never really understood the Jennifer Lawrence fever that people have. I'm not putting her down. I thought she was perfectly fine in the X-Men movies that she was in. And certainly in the Hunger Games, she, like, that character, Katniss, is even in the books like a stone wall. There's very little emotion on the exterior, and she plays that well. But playing a blank slate isn't really that big of a challenge. So I don't dislike her and I don't avoid her movies, but I also don't care if she's in a movie. So Scarlett Johansson, on the other hand, I really like her. I haven't seen a ton of movies with her in it, but I think she's great as the Black Widow. And I know I've seen her in one or two other things that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. So yeah, for me, that's a slam dunk. I would go Scarlett Johansson any day. Henrique K2L asks, what about an alien facility mission with only your Reaper? Yeah, you know what? Stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say. Stay tuned. Nicholas Mindiola says, why do you sound like Negan if he worked in accounting? Well, Nicholas, who says I'm not? Mark Dickerson asks if I prefer the base game or War of the Chosen content more. And that's a difficult question. And partly I need to finish my War of the Chosen campaign before I give any kind of, real judgment on it. So I'm going to ask you to wait. What I think I'm going to do is once I finish the campaign and the last installment has aired, I will probably do a final thoughts video and I'll talk about the things that I really like in War of the Chosen, because there are definitely things that I do like. And I'm going to talk about the things that, let's just say, I like less. But we'll give it a chance to play out. Stefan Voorhout asks if I like South Park, and if yes, would I consider a Let's Play of the Fractured but Whole if the turn-based strategy element of the game suits my fancy. My understanding is that the turn-based strategy is fairly rudimentary, so I don't know that that would really, be enough to keep me going. But I'll be honest, as far as South Park as a whole goes, I enjoyed the first season or two quite a bit. And not every moment of it, but I thought there was a lot of stuff in there that was really funny. I loved that it was so irreverent. But I also will say that I've watched an awful lot of South Park that I didn't really think was very funny. And I'm not even talking about, this offended me or something. I just don't think it's always funny. So I stopped watching South Park a very long time ago. And as far as the game, once I saw how heavily they're leaning on like gross out humor and fart jokes and stuff, for me, that ends up being kind of a turnoff because I don't necessarily think it's funny. I just think it's kind of gross. And so I think for me, the South Park games are kind of a miss. But I totally get why a lot of people are into it. And, I'm not hating on it or anything like that. Deb Clatterbuck asks if I ever got into Planescape Torment or Baldur's Gate. And Planescape Torment, I never played. Forget really. I never played it. I'm interested in it to this day, even though I think it's probably a game I mentioned before with open world games, I kind of get bored. I have a feeling I would run out of steam in Planescape Torment pretty quickly, but I have nothing but respect for the type of game it is and the work that was put into creating it. Baldur's Gate, I did play. I don't remember now if it was 1 or 2 for sure, but I played it, and I played a lot of D&D games back then, and I didn't care for it. I know that game is just worshipped. But BioWare in general, actually, I am not a fan of their games. I know a lot of people are, and that's great, but I don't personally enjoy, for some reason, their brand of character interaction. There's just something about it that's never quite clicked with me. So, yeah. Alexander Toth asked if I'm going to play Wolfenstein 2. So let me tell you, I often say I'm not good at action games and shooters and stuff. And Wolfenstein is one of the games that makes me wish I was, because I watched Jesse Cox play the first game of the reboot, by this developer. And I loved that series. It was so good. And then when Old Blood came out, I bought that and I tried to play it. And I think I had it set to easy. And pretty early, there was this stealth section. And I tried a number of times to play my way through it, and I just kept getting killed. And I gave up and I stopped. So yeah, I would, if only I were better at that kind of game. So I'll probably have to watch somebody else. Hey, look, there's people who can't play XCOM 2, and especially on Legend, and beat that. And we're not all good at the same things, and we're certainly not all good at everything. And I am not good at shooters, so that's my answer to that. Johnny Attack asks if I am as methodical in real life as I am playing XCOM. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to cop to that. Pretty much. Ivo68 asks, you can choose which question to answer. So, top 3 countries I visited and why, what I liked. So, I haven't gone to enough countries that I could make a decent top 3. I think I have visited like 5 ever. But Great Britain would definitely be at the top of my list. I loved pretty much everything about it. I'm not a student of architecture by any means, but oh my God, so many amazing things to see there and different types of architecture. So like you'll go to one place and it's like being in a Harry Potter movie, like a Diagon Alley come to life. And then you'll go somewhere else and it's this amazing cathedral. And then you can go to another amazing cathedral that has completely different architecture than the one you were in, a little while ago. And just on and on. And just like normal buildings on the street. I live in a place where everything has been built in the last 40 to 50 years. So when you go to a country where they have things that are hundreds and hundreds of years old and built like all throughout that time in a variety of styles, it's just amazing. Also, the country itself is quite pretty. So Ariel and Proud asks if I think games are a good form of media for storytelling. So that's an interesting question and a very deep one. Because I also think like different forms of media, like a book, has got to be the best as far as if you want to get inside a character's head and convey what they think and what they feel. And then, movies can be very powerful in a different way. And I think games can be very powerful. But I also will say, I don't think games have often done a great job of executing as a storytelling medium. I don't think most game developers put a ton of thought into it. And if they do, frankly, they're not that good at it. You do see exceptions, and actually, Ariel's question was much longer, and some of the examples were really of emergent storytelling. And I think personally, that's probably where a lot of my most memorable moments have come in. I also, I know I've talked about Bloodborne a lot already, but I think one of the things that's really cool in Dark Souls and Bloodborne both, it's not your story so much, but there are stories of these other characters going on around you, and you intersect with them and you affect them, but you're not the main character in their story. But some of their stories really affected me and stay with me. And so it can be done. So I will say, yes, I do think it's a good form, a good media for storytelling. But, the people who do it need to put more effort in for it to be consistent at doing that. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up here. So thank you very much to everyone who submitted a question. I know that they're not all answered in this video. I cannot squeeze them all into a half hour and do them any justice. But thanks again, and you can always ask it in the next Q&A when we do one. At any rate, that's going to do it for now. Happy Halloween, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you next time.